Hello everybody! With the trade deadline coming up, let's talk about some players that the Suns could trade for. Should the Suns trade for Karl-Anthony Towns? With Giannis most likely being traded this season, I've seen a lot of fake trades out there where the Knicks get Giannis and the Suns somehow get Cat. I like Cat, but I don't think a team of him and Book will go anywhere together. Their ceiling is probably the 6th seed in the West. Offensively, it would be awesome to see how Book plays next to a 5 that can shoot threes. Book would probably have his best season with the stretch 5 that's a threat to drive to the rim. The spacing would be beautiful for someone like Book who can shoot and pass from anywhere on the court. But defensively, they would be terrible, and Cat is known to commit a lot of dumb fouls. If the Suns can somehow keep Malawach or Mark Williams, then I would like this trade more because Cat has shown he can play the 4. But in any trade for Cat, I think the Suns would have to trade Mark Williams, Malawach, and Jalen Green because the Suns don't have first round picks to give up. And as Suns fans, we've learned from the KD trade that it's just not worth giving up everything for one player. I'd rather see how Jalen Green, Mark Williams, and Malawach develop than see Cat be a Sun. Should the Suns trade for Sabonis? It's being reported that the Suns have interest in the Kings starting center. I would have been okay trading for Sabonis in the offseason if all it took was Kevin Durant, but right now Sabonis makes no sense on the Suns after all the moves they made. The Suns' identity is being good defensively and playing hard, and Sabonis doesn't fit that type of play style. He's good offensively, but he hasn't shown that he could be a good rim protector. If the Suns traded for Sabonis, it will probably require one of the Suns' bigger salaries like Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, or Brooks, and I just don't think Sabonis is worth trading any of those players. Plus, the Suns already have 2 young centers in Malawach and Mark Williams. Those 2 are young enough that they can potentially be better than Sabonis, and those 2 are already better than him defensively and are still young enough to improve offensively, especially Malawach. Should the Suns trade for Ja Morant? Shams reported that Memphis is willing to listen to offers for their starting point guard. Ja Morant for the last couple of seasons has not been playing like an all-star. He's been less efficient, still can't shoot threes, and is terrible defensively, and he hasn't played more than 60 plus games since 2022. I don't think the Suns should be trading for him at all. He can probably be good for another team, but his skill set wouldn't make the Suns a better team. The Suns already have good playmakers like Collin and Book, and the Suns have a guy in Jalen Green that can attack the rim. Plus, all those Suns players can hold their own defensively. Should the Suns trade for Jaren Jackson Jr.? He's a 26-year-old 6'10 wing that can create for himself, shoot threes, and is one of the best defenders in the league. Last year, he was an all-star that averaged 22 points, 5 rebounds, and shot 38% from 3. He makes sense on the Suns because Triple J is a 4 that fits the Suns' identity defensively and offensively. One of the weak parts of his game is that he's 6'10 and only grabs 5 rebounds a game. You would think at his size he would be averaging 8 rebounds a game, and he still fouls a lot for a player in his 8th season. I don't think the Suns should trade for Triple J because they would have to give up everything to beat other teams' offers. The Suns would have to give up Malawach and one of their important rotation players like Brooks, Green, or Mark Williams. And again, as we learned from the KD trade, it's not worth giving up everything for one player. Should the Suns trade for Michael Porter Jr.? MPJ is a 6'10 wing that can shoot threes, get rebounds, and is a good help defender. For the Nets this season as the #1 option, he's averaging 26 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and is shooting 40% from 3. MPJ on the Suns would make a lot of sense. One of the Suns' biggest holes in the roster is they don't have a starting power forward. But do the Suns have the assets to trade for him? I think the Nets will most likely get 1 first-round pick and a good young player for MPJ. The Suns don't have a first-round pick to trade, so they most likely would have to trade Jalen Green and one of the young guys on the roster like Ryan Dunn and Fleming. I like MPJ as a player and I do think he would make the Suns better, but I'd rather keep the young guys and Jalen Green to see how they develop. And honestly, I do think the Suns have their future starting 4 in Fleming. In his limited minutes, he's shown that he has a lot of potential. He's always getting a block on a player that thinks they have an easy layup, but the one thing that holds him back is that he isn't hitting his threes. Once he figures that out, he will be a good starting 4 soon. The one player I would definitely say the Suns should trade for is PJ Washington. He's a 27-year-old 6'7 wing that can be the Suns starting 4 for the next 5-7 years. He's one of the best role player 4s in the league. He's athletic, can guard 1 through 4, get rebounds, and hit threes. Last year for the Mavericks, he was averaging 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 38% from 3. And plus, he can drive to the rim and is a lob threat. He can basically be the Suns' Aaron Gordon. Now, this is a player that I would give up anything to get. I would be happy as long as the trade package doesn't involve Book, Jalen Green, Brooks, or Mark Williams. But sadly, nobody can trade for PJ Washington until the offseason. He signed an extension with the Mavericks in September that came with a 6-month trade restriction. The good thing though is that the Suns can see how this team looks with the healthy roster for the next 4 months. And if they decide that PJ Washington is the missing piece, they can trade Grayson Allen, Royce, one of the young guys, and some draft capital. Should the Suns trade for Jeremy Sochan? Sochan is a 22-year-old 6'8 wing that's a good rebounder and defender, but isn't a good 3-point 3-point shooter. Last season he averaged 11.7 rebounds and shot 30% from 3. But Sochan so far this season has been getting DMPs and inconsistent minutes with the Spurs. I get that he's coming back from an injury that's going to take him a while to adjust, but the Spurs have been playing amazing without him. So I think the Spurs would be willing to trade him since he's up for a new contract after this season. And the Spurs have a lot of young talent that can take over his spot in the rotation. I wonder if the Spurs would be willing to trade Sochan for Royce. Royce would be a better version of Harrison Barnes that they can actually depend on to hit clutch threes. And the Suns will finally have a player in Sochan that they can play at the 4, who can get rebounds and defend, but the only issue would be his offense. The Suns have done a good job of always having good 3-point shooters on the court, but the spacing is going to be terrible if the Suns have a lineup of Brooks, Book, Sochan, and Williams, because none of them have been hitting threes at a good percentage this season. But if all the Spurs want is Royce, then I would say yes, because Sochan is a young wing that fits what the Suns need. Should the Suns trade for Obi Toppin? Obi Toppin is a player that I've always liked. He's a 6'9" power forward that's really athletic and is an okay defender. Last season for the Pacers, he averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds, and shot 36% from 3. Obi Toppin on the Suns would be a perfect fit because he adds athleticism and length to the Suns bench. Plus, he's really good at scoring in transition. I can just picture Colin or Goodwin getting a steal and passing it to Toppin for a flashy dunk or layup. But I don't know if the Pacers would be willing to trade Toppin right now at his lowest value. Toppin is currently out with the foot injury that will have him out till February, and the Pacers already know they have a team that can make it to the finals next year. So I just think they're going to keep him unless they're able to trade him for a starting center. Should the Suns trade for Bobby Portis? Bobby Portis is a 6'9" power forward that has shown he can play small ball center. Last season for the Bucks, he averaged 14 points, 8 rebounds, and shot 36% from 3 off the bench. He would add length and scoring to the Suns bench. I mostly like the idea of Bobby Portis on this team because the Suns get to add another villain on this team. I can just imagine all the antics Bobby Portis and Brooks would get into if they played together. But some of his flaws are that he's pretty slow and athletic and isn't a good defender. And Bucks fans have said that he can get dominated on the boards if the opposing team has any strong or athletic big man. His length would be amazing for a Suns bench that really needs it, but trading for him wouldn't be worth it if he's scoring 10 points while also giving up 20 points on the other side, because the Suns' identity is playing defense and running transition. So I just don't think Bobby Portis would fit on this team. Should the Suns trade for Yabusele? Yabusele is a player that I really enjoyed watching last season for the Sixers. He's a 6'7" wing that was playing small ball center for them, and he did a really good job on a terrible Sixers team. He was averaging 11 points, 6 rebounds, shot 38% from 3, and played good defense. But so far on the Knicks, he's been terrible. He's averaging 3 points, 2 rebounds, and is shooting 30% from 3. I don't know what happened to him on the Knicks. I really thought he would be a perfect fit on that team, but it looks like Knicks fans are ready to ship him out already. I think Yabusele makes a lot of sense on the Suns. They really need a big wing on this team that can be solid on defense and get rebounds. So maybe the Suns can just trade Nigel Hayes-Davis for him. Yabusele has a player option for next season that he'll probably accept, while Nigel Hayes-Davis is only signed for this season. So I think the Knicks would make this trade since they take on less money and they don't have to pay Nigel Hayes-Davis next year. Should the Suns trade for Agbaji? Hoops have reported that the Raptors and Suns have discussed a trade where the Suns get Agbaji and a second-round pick, while the Raptors get Nick Richards. Before I even talk about Agbaji, I'm just happy that the Suns can potentially get draft capital for Nick Richards. I was worried that the Suns wouldn't be able to get anything good for him since he's not in the Suns rotation right now, but one young player and a second-round pick is good trade value. I would easily say yes to this trade. Trading Nick Richards would open up minutes for Malawach, who I think would give the Suns better minutes as the third-string center than Richards, and the Suns get another young player to see how they can develop. Agbaji is a 25-year-old 6'5" wing that's a solid defender. Last season he averaged 10 points and shot 40% from 3. So why would the Raptors want to trade a good player like him for Nick Richards? Well, Agbaji this season has looked terrible so far. He's averaging 3 points and is shooting 18% from 3, but I think he's just going through a slump since he's never been that bad before. So the Suns could get a potential steal in Agbaji. Plus the Suns get a second-round pick to add to the little draft capital that they have. Should the Suns trade for Jaylen Smith? Suns fans should remember him since we drafted him in the 2020 draft with the 10th pick. At the time when the Suns drafted him, they thought he could potentially play the 4, but he never really showed any potential when they gave him minutes. So the Suns gave up on him early and traded him for Torrey Craig. Since then though, he's been able to stay in the league and has shown that he can be a good role player. He's a good small ball center at 6'8" that can shoot 35% from 3. For the Bulls last year, he averaged 8 points, 6 rebounds, and 15 minutes while being a solid rim protector. I mostly like this idea because it gives the Suns a lineup where they can have 5-out spacing, and it can make the Suns bench longer if the Suns put Oso at the 4 and Smith at the 5. But by the end of the day, I don't think the Suns should be trading for another center when the Suns can probably have Malawach do what Jaylen Smith does next season. This would be a different story if Jaylen Smith can play the 4, but so far in his career, he hasn't shown that he can do that. Should the Suns trade for Mo Gay? Mo Gay is a 6'11" wing that has shown shown a lot of potential on the Hawks. In 17 minutes for the Hawks, he's been averaging 6 points, 4 rebounds, and is shooting 46% from the field. The best part of Moga's game is his defense. He's been one of the Hawks' best defenders on a team that has Dyson Daniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's had some impressive blocks against guards, wings, and centers. Just when you think you have him beat, Gay comes out of nowhere and gets a block. He also moves really good for being 6'11" and has a lot of potential offensively. His only flaw is that he can't hit threes. Last season, he averaged 25% from 3 and is still shooting 25% this year. I don't know if the Hawks would trade him since he's still 23 and can still get better, but if they're willing to listen to some offers, the Suns should definitely give them a call because he does everything the Suns need. He has length, athleticism, and is a good defender while also being a good rebounder. But that's it for me today, guys. If you guys like this video, drop some comments down below, like the video, subscribe. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you guys next time.